Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Thrive, Not Just Survive. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful start of the week. Today is Tuesday, and I wanted to, talk to somebody who was in the field of physical health and wanted to really sort of dive in a little bit in terms of our physical health and going back in terms of work and COVID-19 and different things that physiotherapy can really be a part of one's journey, depending on if you are either injured or you're looking at certain things in your life that you want to alter. Perhaps you want to get into a certain sport or whatever. So today I have a wonderful guest on from the West Coast. And her name is Faith Grant, and she has 38 years of experience in the area of physiotherapy. And I want to discuss with her the different aspects of health and wellness, also her take on sports and sports injuries, and also the optimizing of one's body when one is looking at sports in general. So she's going to shed some light on this. And I think this will be a great session for all of us, even if we don't or haven't used a physiotherapy therapy session or therapist in our history. We can really learn from somebody who's an entrepreneur and who has had experience of going through business in looking at what the customer needs, what her passions are, and then how she pivoted certain things because of her learning. So without further ado, let me bring Faith on so we can get this conversation started. Hi, Faith. Welcome to the show. I am so grateful that you are able to join us.
Well, thanks for having me.
No problem. As we start this, I want just to, for our audience to get to know you, just get an overview of your journey of how you got to where you are at now.
Okay, so I started as a physiotherapist in Jamaica, which is where I'm from. I did my training there, finished way back in the olden days of 1982. I came to Canada in 85 and finished the BSc degree at U of A, where I live, which is in Edmonton, and I've been here ever since. I've since completed a master's in health sciences through McMaster University. We started physiotherapy clinics, my husband and I, in 1992 when my youngest daughter was 4 months.
Wow.
I do tend to do risky things like that, much, to the dismay sometimes of my poor husband. But so we started there. And I started because I thought that I had something to contribute. There are ways, the typical ways that you do things, and I tend not to be typical. I found out afterwards that is an entrepreneurial trait. So if you're out there and you find that you just are chafing at the way things are done and you always feel like you can improve it and do better, that might be a trait that you have that leads you into entrepreneurship. So don't quash it down. Just try to get it nurtured with somebody who has some experience. So anyway, we have had clinics since 1992. The company has grown. We have sold. We have closed. We have to know when to fold and when to hold and all that kind of stuff. But we are now operating out of 3 locations in Edmonton. 2 are in recreation centers, which are currently closed, and another is in an independent commercial condo. And yeah, we're moving right along.
That's awesome. So in terms of you touched on something really key about somebody who's thinking about an idea, a problem that they could solve. Perhaps they're looking at things being done and they think they have a better way, to not squash that idea or thought, because
Absolutely.
The entrepreneurial journey begins with solving a problem that's out there that can be done better. So it's not just about, I just want to start a business, but
Exactly.
Look for a problem that needs solving. And then go and find that solution, or you may already have it, and go with that and not squash it. So that's
Absolutely.
one really important point that you pointed out. And the other one is just that as you went through this journey, you knew when to hold, you knew when to fold. Kind of sort of analogy is just to realize that everything doesn't just sit and come perfect. right? There's a journey and evolution to the entrepreneur. And
Absolutely.
your clients, your audience, whatever that might be, will tell you, you know, what is that they need, or what is working, what is not working, and you need to pivot. So tell us a little bit, and we talked about this prior to the show, in terms of how you've pivoted. Of course, COVID-19 has posed some challenges. So how have you pivoted in this challenge?
So initially, I am a physiotherapist. When I move into entrepreneurship, I'm obviously going to be doing what I know. So our first clinic was strictly a physiotherapy clinic. We took a look, and people that are coming in had, different needs. So our second clinic incorporated some of the other stuff. We brought in massage therapy, we brought in acupuncture, and that was doing good. That was one of the clinics that we sold. While that one was growing, I was thinking to myself, there has to be more that we can offer. People were going over there for acupuncture, going to see a psychologist over there, asking questions about health issues like diabetes and diet and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, what if we could make something that is a one-stop shop, that when somebody comes in, there's something that can help them. We can say, yes, we can help you with that. So our next foray was to, just bust our way through this wall, where we created a multidisciplinary environment that had physician, dietitian, psychology, physio, massage, acupuncture, and we blended the traditional with also the non-traditional, like reflexology and those kind of things, and that that worked well for our business. So our business model continues to be multidisciplinary. There are some aspects of the non-traditional therapies that our clients were not using, but also our clients wondered why we were doing it. And if they're wondering why we're doing it, then we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing it? So we have dropped some things. We've let some things fall along the way, but we have a solid core of multidisciplinary services right now that we're utilizing. Now, obviously, if I have 38 years of experience, I am a little bit up there. I am 60, and I am looking at doing things a little bit differently, where I am not every day manipulating people or, working manually, but where I can have the most impact. So I've gone into impact on me, something that I love to do, whether it's money making or not, and B, impact on a larger group. So instead of working now on each individual, I continue to have my clients who I work with that I still love to do the challenging stuff, the chronic pain, the ones who have tried this and that and it hasn't worked, the people who it's 11 years since I played hockey. That gives me a challenge, so I can sink my teeth into that and work out a strategy for helping them to function, because basically we're elevated now to how do people function, as opposed to how do I get rid of this sprained ankle. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm working with those, but I'm also pivoting to a higher capacity for influencing, where we're moving into prevention. I have a lot of knowledge about what causes injury, how do people get back, and what do they get back to when they go to work. I would like to speak with employers about how do we stop that from happening? How do we put my other me out of business, or at least make us more focused on putting the worker back to work in the right way? Our motto in our new company is work hard, play hard, and recover right. And so the preventative side will help people to work hard and play hard. But if you do get injury, then we will do the recover right section.
Right. So there's always been that thing that I grew up with. My father used to always say, prevention is better than cure.
Absolutely.
So this is the whole idea now of, as you're pivoting, you are bringing this awareness into a group of people that, instead of saying, oh, once I get injured, I will go fix it, is to say, well, how can I, if I'm a sports person, like playing soccer or hockey or any number of sports, how can you do that particular sport optimally without injury? And of course, if the injury happens, yes, you're going to be able to help. But this is really I think a really important conversation, right? If we're doing prevention, that takes away a lot from our healthcare system in terms of people needing right? More healthcare, more things that depletes our resources. So if we can do
Absolutely.
prevention, then it allows our system to stay healthy, that when, you
Absolutely.
know, people that need it can
Yep.
actually access it. So I think that's a
Absolutely.
really important conversation. So can you tell me, and I know we talked about this and I was really intrigued by it, is the groups of people that you are really passionate about helping, and because you're doing it more impactfully, more influentially, who are these groups? Even though, like you mentioned to me, that it's not necessarily a money-making activity or group, but you are really feeling that that's a passion you're following because you want to have impact.
So, as I said, I'm from Jamaica. So everybody knows, like, in terms of track and field, that's a small country with less than 3 million people is really has really made inroads over decades in track and field. And in sport in general, remember, Jamaicans are like that. We're gonna do bobsledding whether we ever got into a bobsled or not, right?
Right.
And so sports has always been important for me. I did a little bit of track and field in high school. I had no ambition, but I liked doing it. So I have a good understanding of what it takes to run, to start a race, to finish a race when you're tired. So the first group that I started working with was track and field athletes. And so initially I started just seeing people, the coach would send them, I'd give some consultation and give tips on how you can improve yourself. Right now, I'm really engaging with athletes. So track and field, soccer, hockey, figure skating, those are the ones that I've seen the most of. But some gymnastics, because your body is your body and people don't realize it, but the biggest piece of equipment that you have at work, play, anything is your body. So they think more about your spikes and your shoes and your gloves and all of that kind of stuff, your hard hat, but they don't realize that taking care of maintaining that mechanical piece is the key. So we have had people ask questions about a lot of different sports, and my goal is that when I see someone, sometimes I do it for free. Sometimes if people have insurance, I bill it. But my goal is to see that person do a personal best. Whether it's a sprint, they do a personal best. If it's figure skating, they nail that jump, that they were falling on for a while, because they now understand their body a little bit better. And it's not stepping on the toes of coaches, because I know nothing about the most of the mechanics of this sport. What I do know is the mechanics of the body, and how you take that body and put it into different environments is all about how that body functions in that environment. So that is a passion of mine. That's something that I want to do. I want to the way that things are right now, I was going into a school most recently to work with one of the soccer academies here, and the kids were engaged. I thought sometimes, we started from grade 4 to grade 10. And I thought sometimes those kids the 4s are too scattered, and then the 10s don't want anybody to tell them what to do, but they were extremely engaged. They understood, they really wanted to do it and improve themselves. That is such a motivating blessing for somebody who is doing something, when people are motivated and engaged. Right. And then the second aspect, of course, as I said about pivoting, is when I take that 38 years and I say to an employer, let me tell you, I look at your injury statistics and I can look at your job demands analysis, and I say this and this and this is responsible for 80% of those injuries. How can we tweak that? Very easily and simply to minimize those injuries. Yeah. And so in these times, I mean, we're able to go into the center or into schools or meet with kids in teams or coaches, because sometimes having a conversation with a group of coaches makes a huge difference. Now we can do it online. So I do intend to make that a business aspect. Right now, we're just talking to people. So we have been using Zoom, but there are other platforms that are associated with our practice management software that, for confidentiality, when we actually are doing individual consulting, we want to use something a little bit more confidential, because you don't want people's lives being saved on the internet somewhere, right? And also the injury stats analysis, the workplace evaluation can also be done online. So that's where we're turning, using something that is a little bit, not a little bit, a huge bit catastrophic, to be able to find a different way to do things. And I think as an entrepreneur, that's kind of what we do, is find a different way to do what needs to be done.
Right. And I think that's the other thing, like COVID, though it's almost, well, it has, right, put all of us into shelter mode, and we're kind of now figuring it out as to how do we re-enter the workforce, whether you're working for a company or you're an entrepreneur and you work with clients, and, there's platforms and online virtual things that are going on, but it's really about finding what you're doing in your capacity with your expertise and finding a way of delivering that message that can impact and that can reach as many people and still continue to have a profound change, transformation in that person or that group's life. So I think, right, this is just the probably a blessing in disguise when COVID shows up for us to reevaluate, what's important. What are we doing? How are we impacting others? And what really do we stand for? Like, what is our mission, right? And I think this is something that you speak so eloquently about in terms of the pivoting. It may not all be money-making activities. However, but if you can impact another person's life, especially a young life,
absolutely,
it changes them forever and allows them to have different sets of experiences, perhaps, right? So I think that's a very inspirational thing that you put out for my audience and just in talking to you. So now tell me, so in terms of you working with, perhaps it's going to be a workforce like businesses and helping them, what else is part of this journey? Like, what do you see coming out? Or what would you like to sort of put out there within this group to say this is where you're heading?
So I'm going to take it from the perspective of COVID right now. I heard, I don't know if it's 100% true, but I heard that since World War II, Canadians have never had this much money in their bank accounts, right? So it's because we can't go out there to spend it. We're not going to restaurants. We're not buying clothing. We're not, buying so many coffees and all of those little things. So we now have some money that whenever this is open, we can go and spend to boost the economy, right? So what COVID has done is given people a definition of health. Like I'm in healthcare, so I give talks on health to companies, to to schools, to whatever. And the one thing about health is the multidimensional nature of health, right? And the fact that it's also on a continuum. So it is, you think about health, mental, emotional, physical, all of that kind of stuff. And oftentimes, I talk about things like the financial health as well, because being in business, I know that impacts your health. You can't go see a psychologist because you can't sleep and your life is full of stress because of business issues, unless you think about how to also resolve those issues in your business, because you're then just putting a Band-Aid on it, right?
Right.
So there's some definitions of health that, like the absence of physical, ailment or disease, that are a very simplistic look at health. But what COVID has done is brought out the other aspect of health, which I like, which is basically good health is how individuals and societies interact to create effective and efficient function, right? And I keep coming back to function, because my job goes from all the way, depending on the equipment we're using, all the way from how your cells function, when we're looking at how do we reduce swelling and that kind of stuff, all the way to how your joints and your muscles function, all the way on your whole body functions, and then how do you function in your environment, and that environment functions in the whole society. So when we're looking at a person, we're not looking simply at the headache or the chronic TMJ problem that I'm treating, but how it impacts their family. What are the family's issues that contribute to grinding or, that kind of stuff. And I'm not a psychologist. I love psychology. So I've taken every opportunity I've had. I've taken all my elective courses in psychology. It helps me communicate with my patients, and it helps me be able to make recommendations if people need something else in a trustworthy sort of, engaging kind of way. So basically, what I would like to work on is whatever you're doing, how do you function at it, and how do we make you function better, and to make your environment more efficient, more effective for a workplace. That's productivity, right. And for an individual, that's performance. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is not just, like you said, it's not just the physical ailment that you're going to fix, right? Because there's so many factors and things that affect each other, in this whole thing that we're in, like not just ourselves, our families, and then community, and then at large, right? Yeah. So I think this is awesome. I mean, the work that you're doing just sounds like what we all need to be aware of, and have the guidance from somebody like you who has the expertise, the knowledge, and then the way to put it all together. Because it's one thing I find in my business anyways, is, you can have a solution or something that you can do here, but if you don't have all of the aspects and helping that one person, it just is bandaging the situation rather than giving them that holistic healing approach, right, for whatever that problem might be. So yeah. I think, in terms of mentorship and coaching and finding the right people that you have a trusting relationship, that you have, that they have the expertise, is key, right? Because there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
Who do you find resonance with, and who can help you get to where you want to get to?
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. So I am so grateful that I was another friend of a mutual friend of ours has introduced you to me. So I'm so grateful that, as we open our network, we begin to find people that are doing amazing work and that are out there wanting to make a difference.
Thank you.
Yes. And so any parting words, you've shared so much. I've put your website up. People can go to the website. I gather that they can message you there, or at least send an email. Mm-hmm. So if anybody has questions, by all means, reach out to Faith. And the other thing I wanted to just ask you is, I'm not sure if you have a Facebook page, or if somebody can look for you. Do you have a Facebook page?
We do have a Facebook page. Okay. And we actually... we have a Facebook group that we will be inviting people to become members of, and we will be posting, tips on different things there. If you're a member, we'll be posting, exercises, or we might be giving a little bit of a talk on health or a particular sport or something like that. So this is something that is in the works for social media. I also wanted to say that Rejuvenation Health Services is our rehabilitation treatment side, and Full Circle Corporate Consulting is our corporate side. So it's a different company, but from the website, you can link to the Full Circle Corporate Health Consulting side. And then parting words, I would say that your audience will comprise of entrepreneurs, among other people. So I just wanted to say that when you're going through first of all, don't quash your entrepreneurship. You sometimes feel like one of those little wind-up toys where you go forward and you hit a wall and you have to kind of reverse and change directions a little bit, and you may hit a wall. Don't give up. Learn through the journey. Over my 38 years, I've done a lot of learning. Sometimes I'm like, have I not learned enough? But you learn, right? You learn a lot. Know that failure, that's my hardest thing, is I grew up highly motivated, and failure was not acceptable. As an entrepreneur, you have to change that mindset up here to say that you may fail, but your failure has to be a learning experience. You take what you learn from that, you apply it going forward. And so the failure then becomes not a negative thing, but a learning tool.
Right.
And it's important to do that. For your strategy, Most, when I started, I had no idea what strategy really was, but your overarching strategy has to look at way down there. What do you want to do? And there are going to be many ways to get there. And you try to find the easiest, most effective. So effectiveness and efficiency have to combine for the journey that you're taking, but be prepared always to pivot. And pivoting doesn't mean go the other way. It means adjusting. So you're you're small enough when you're starting to watch and make those pivots,
Right.
but always be prepared that you're gonna make changes. The plan is a live, your plan is always gonna be a live document. It's alive, and you're gonna, trim the hair all the time. You're gonna cut the nails. You're gonna, position it in a different way, depending on what it is. All the time thinking effectiveness and efficiency.
That's awesome. That's great advice, right? Because the journey is a living journey, and you do change the way you get there. The destination is that this is the outcome you want to have, but your road or your path might change or might alter. So I think that's great advice. I just Elizabeth is just thanking you for the discussion.
You're welcome.
People come in and listen to it and take from it what resonates with them. And sometimes I do believe this, that when you're went to hear a message, the message is delivered to you somehow, some way. This is how the universe works.
Absolutely.
In terms of, aligning, everything that we're doing is aligned to our purpose. So I just want to thank you for your beautiful energy and light.
You're most welcome.
And sharing that information. So thank you again for your time. And I wish you a blessed week ahead.
Thank you.
So that was Faith Grant. I hope you enjoyed her interview as much as I did. What a beautiful energy. So what I want just to kind of put out there is, if you are looking at an entrepreneur journey, you're wondering what to do in terms of, the things that you're trying to do but not understanding, find people that have already taken that journey or just a few steps ahead of you, because really you want to learn from them. You can create your own path, of course, but remember that you don't have to recreate the wheel. You can solve a problem that's out there. You can do it in your own creative way, but there are people ahead of you that have just figured out some things that may help you. So be open to that. I wish you a wonderful Tuesday. I do have a lovely guest on tomorrow, so join me again at 10. Be kind to yourself and to others. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10. And if you have any questions for Faith or I, just reach out to us. We're here to help. Thank you so much for joining.